It happened on the northwest side of town along the 1600 block of West 26th Street. The day was oppressively hot and overcast. Rocco, driving to Moncrief Yard to photograph striking train workers, decided, for no particular reason, to go this way. And here he saw some electrical linemen.
He said linemen were always interesting to take pictures of because the different things they did and all the equipment.
So he casually made a mental note. Maybe come back later and shoot what they call a daily.
Just anything they could use in the paper for weather or whatever.
So when he got through with the strikers,
Instead of coming to the office, I went back. I don't know. I believe in divine guidance. Something made me go back to where these men were working. I had a few shots left on the film. And lo and behold, when I got back there, people were yelling, screaming. And I looked around and I saw this man hanging.
Did you know what had happened to him?
No.
Rocco instinctively grabs his Rolleiflex, gets off one shot, and sees the man on the pole is injured. So he races back to the car and calls the Journal on his two-way.
I told the desk, I said, somebody's been hurt out here. You better send an ambulance.
Now, that's the kind of guy he was. He was more concerned about that guy's safety than he was his picture. I mean, he could have been out there taking pictures all that time.
Meantime, J.D. Thompson, an apprentice lineman on another pole 400 yards away, hears the ruckus.
I run on down to where I heard him hollering, and I could see, before I got to the pole, I could see him hanging upside down.
The man hanging upside down was Randall Champion, another apprentice lineman, called Hamburger because he had a second job at Burger King. Randall had hit a high-voltage wire.
They were saying, somebody help him, you know. You had people on the ground that were groundmen that didn't climb. And in fact, they didn't even have any tools to climb the pole, you know. They didn't have any hooks or a belt or anything of that sort, so they had to get somebody that could climb.
That somebody was J.D. As he shimmied up the pole, Rocco returned with a fully loaded camera.
And by this time, J.D. was up on the pole and had him cradled in his arm.
You thought he was dead?
Yeah, I really did, yeah. His face, his cheeks is blue, and there's no movement to him, no breathing, nothing going on here.
I shot one. I said, heck, I can't see what's going on up there. So I backed way off.
I tried to give him mouth to mouth. I didn't quite have him where I could get air into him. So I moved some.
He had him in his arm, and he was breathing into him.
Put 3 or 4 breaths, and then also trying to squeeze on his chest.
And then I shot that picture. That's the one we have.
When he actually started breathing, I can remember it was just like a hiccup or something. He just kind of jerked a little bit, you know, and I knew there was some life here then.
Then I shot pictures of them bringing him down the pole. Just before he got on the ground, he came to.
His arms was just going everywhere, which his legs and everything was kicking, you know, and he had his spikes on his too.
I started fighting, trying to get loose from the wire because I didn't realize I had been out, and I thought I was still on the wire.
We just held him there for a minute, you know, just got him calmed down, just held on to him.
I just got my pictures and got out of there. That was it.
Well, not quite. There was the small matter of getting the picture in that day's paper.
Rocco called in and said, I think I've got a pretty good picture. Those were his words. I think I've got a pretty good picture. And I said, well, come on in and we'll try to get it in, because we were already very close to deadline.
Here it gets dicey. Miss the deadline, and the picture doesn't make the paper. Instantly, and literally, it becomes yesterday's news.
It wasn't going to be any good the next day.
Didn't lessen the quality of the picture if it was old, but it was old, you know. That's not what we were in business for. We're a newspaper. You publish it while it's news.
Rocco, racing the clock, begins processing the film, an intricate, laborious task.
Heck, you don't know what's going to happen in developing film. Maybe the film could have got off the roll in the camera and not even have a picture. Develop it and not see anything on the film. Anything could happen.
Well, that entire process took usually at least 30 minutes, just from the time you took the film out until the time you had your print. And by then we were well past our photo deadline.
Which meant one thing.
They weren't going to use it.
But then, Dick Bussard, for the first time, finally sees the picture.
I said, we've got to get that in, break the deadline and get that picture in the paper today.
Did you guys go stop the presses?
More or less, although the press hadn't actually started yet, but it was about to.
So they slapped it on the front page, 2 columns wide, and this man, Bob Pate, slugged it, The Kiss of Life. And somehow they managed to put 5 more of Rocco's pictures inside the paper. They got it all in, and just in time. Yet nobody in the newsroom really celebrated. Nobody sat back and marveled at this amazing photo.
Didn't you guys go, wow, look at this picture?
No. I had to get the thing ready and get it to the desk. I didn't have time to jump up and down.
That part, the jumping up and down, came later. A spectacular moment in time, captured on the fly, picked up by wire services, and run round the world and across the USA. How many people saw The Kiss of Life? Tens of millions, maybe? 100 million? Maybe more.
I'm sure every paper in the country had it the next day, and on page 1, and larger than we used it in most cases.
Yet Rocco still remembers Dick Bussard kidding him the day after.
Oh, the next day he said, well, you had that picture yesterday. What do you got today?
As for J.D. Thompson, after saving a man's life, he quietly went back to work. A thunderstorm was on the way, along with power outages. J.D. would be at it till 3 in the morning. But before he left the scene, he had a brief word with the supervisor.
He was proud of the fact that we had helped this fella. I felt at that time, that, well, I did it.
Did you feel like a hero?
No.
Randall Champion spent 12 weeks recovering. He'd be okay, except when he saw the paper that day. Now that was a different kind of shock.
I think just seeing the paper and seeing what had happened and them bringing him down the pole and all, he was just a little bit upset. It really hit him then.
But it wasn't just that. Something more was bothering Randall. It was a matter of his kids and another kind of kiss.
He told us that he always kissed us goodbye in the mornings before he would go to work. And all he could remember as he lay in the hospital was he didn't kiss us goodbye that morning. And he could have, easily never had the opportunity to do that again. And that really weighed heavy on his heart. It's been 40 years, but still very touching to me.